Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have arrived at by far the most important part of the subject of Surah Al-Kahf in the modern age. We are not simply studying Surah Al-Kahf. We're doing more than that. We are attempting to use Surah Al-Kahf to explain the strange modern age in which we now live. And we have now arrived at the most crucially important part of our subject. This subject deals with Gog and Magog, and there is a chapter in this book which has the skeleton. I still have to put some flesh on it, but at least the skeleton is there of the subject. The basic information that you need on the subject is in that chapter on Gog and Magog. Outside of that chapter, there is very little that you will find published on the subject. Very, very, very little. And either it is wrong and misleading, as in the booklet published by the Ahmadiyya movement, Maulana Muhammad Ali wrote on the subject, or it is very, very scant. And so I want to urge you to read that chapter of this book very carefully. Now then, we so far had the following ahadith on Gog and Magog. Number one, that Ya'juj is an ummah of Banu Adam. So they are human beings, like you and I. Ma'gouj is an ummah of Banu Adam. So human beings, like you and I. Ya'juj being the active participle, Ma'gouj the passive. So they are linked together. The second hadith, anybody help me? Yes? That's right. Hadith al-Qudsi. Sahih Muslim. I have created creatures of mine so powerful that none but I can fight them and destroy them. And so they have a power equivalent to or even superior to that of Zulqarnain. Hadith number 3 on Gog and Magog. Yes. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari 4 times in Sahih Bukhari, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Adam alayhi salam. In fact, we have a question on this hadith this evening from a sister. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Adam alayhi salam on the day of the resurrection, al-ba'thu ba'd al-maut, and says to him, take out or separate the people for Jahannam. Adam alayhi salam asks, how many are they, O Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies, and He says, out of every 1,000, take 999 for Jahannam. The companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam were terrified, and then he saw them and he smiled, and he said, good news for you, the one for Jannah from now until the end of Qiyamah, the one for Jannah, meaning up to this day. Sister, you listening? Up to this day, in Trinidad, the one for Jannah the only one who will enter into Jannah is the one who follows the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam has come to restore the authentic religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which came with Nabi Musa alayhi salam, which came with Nabi Isa alayhi salam, which came with Nabi Dawood alayhi salam. So if you follow the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and you follow the way of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, you are assured of heaven. But the 999 are all Ahlu Ya'jooj wa Ma'jooj, indicating that Gog and Magog, when they are released, will eventually embrace all of mankind except the believers, the true believers, not the part-time. Gog and Magog will embrace everybody and get them to live the way of life of Gog and Magog. It matters not whether you are Hindu or Buddhist or Jew or Christian, whatever be your religion, that's peripheral. Essentially, you're living the way of life of Gog and Magog. And so one Jamaat emerges. They call it one global society, globalization. And all of these people will be swept down the river of no return into the hellfire. That does not mean that there is no hope for us. Of course not. The hope for us lies in being faithful to the Book of Allah and to the Sunnah of His Messenger. I leave behind me two things. So long as you hold on to them, you will never go astray, meaning astray from the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The two things are the Book of Allah and my Sunnah. Good. Another hadith on Gog and Magog? Yes? The Jewish boy is not Gog and Magog. The Jewish boy is Dajjal. Wake up. Yes? That's right. That's hadith number 4. Remember that Zulkarnain had built the barrier. What did he use? Recycled paper? Iron and steel. And then a coating of molten copper. And when the barrier was built, then Ya'jooj and Ma'jooj could neither penetrate nor could they scale the barrier. And then Zulkarnain said, this is an ayah of Surah Al-Kahf, هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِنْ رَبِّي. This barrier is rahmah, an act of kindness from my Lord. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي. But when that time comes, of which my Lord has warned, جَعَلَهُ دَكَّاءَ. Allah is going to bring down the barrier. وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّ حَقًّا. And then the warning of my Lord will come to pass. So anytime you see that wall crumbling, know it is Allah who is bringing it down. Because the Quran affirms that it is Allah who will bring it down. When the wall comes down, then Gog and Magog are going to be released. But the next ayah says, وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. And I said to you, this is perhaps one of the most difficult verses of the whole Quran. This one. وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. Mawj is a wave. Yamuju, to come out as waves. And so Gog and Magog will not all come out at the same time. They will come out as waves. How long will it take to come out? What hadith do we have? Huh? Yes, what's the hadith about Galilee? Excellent. MashaAllah, I'm proud of my class. Outside of this class, probably nobody knows the answer. Another hadith of Sahih Muslim which answers that question. How long will it take to be released? Because they're not all going to be released at the same time. They're going to come out in waves. And these waves that they come out crash into each other. Implicit in this is that each wave that comes out will be more powerful than the one which came before. So to crash into the one before and absorb it. And so the world will become more and more corrupt. More and more corrupt. Do you remember? 50 years ago, when we were boys, our mothers used to wear dresses and the skirt used to reach down a little above the ankle, between the knee and the ankle. You remember? It's considered to be the fashion. Those are clothes our mothers used to wear. Of course, it was not in conformity with the Sharia. The Sharia should have been all that. But that was what we used to have long ago. We didn't know the religion too well. And then came the age of blue jeans. And then came the skirts going up. And one day we see the skirt reach almost the knee. And we say, what's happening in the world? Well, guess where it reached now? Yeah, my wife and I went in the shopping mall over here in Gulf City a couple of days ago. So let's go around walking. Guess where it reached now? Each wave that comes out is more powerful than the previous. It crashes into the previous and absorbs it, destroys it and absorbs it. And so the world grows progressively more corrupt. There is nothing outside of Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran that will explain that dunya out there which is becoming progressively more corrupt. Nothing outside of this surah of the Quran that can explain that. How long will it take to come out? The hadith of Sahih Muslim, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, when the first of Gog and Magog come out, the first wave that is, they will start to drink the water, which is symbolic language, indicating the utilization of the water. And when the last of them come out, they would say, they will pass by the Sea of Galilee, and they will say, there used to be water here. And so we have a barometer, or we have a yardstick by which we can measure how much time remains before Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns. Why? Because Nabi Isa alayhi salam will return at that time when he is to kill Dajjal. But immediately after Dajjal is killed, and of course Mirza Ghulam Ahmad never killed Dajjal. Dajjal is still alive and kicking now. Nabi Isa alayhi salam will kill Dajjal, and then after that comes the destruction of Gog and Magog by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Sahih Muslim. And so when you see the water level in the Sea of Galilee going down and down and down and down and down, and the Sea of Galilee now looking very much as though it is destined to dry up, you know that the time is fast approaching for the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, and then comes the destruction of Gog and Magog. Okay? We had one more hadith, namely the hadith which gave us the indication that Allah brought down the wall and that the release of Gog and Magog commenced in the lifetime of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. What's the hadith? Where was he sleeping? At the home of his wife Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha, yes? And he saw something in his sleep. And when he woke up, what did he look like? His face was red and flushed, meaning that he had seen something really terrible. And then he said, Waylul lil Arab min sharrin qad iktaraba. Woe unto the Arabs because of a great evil which will now come upon them. And then he raised his fingers like this and he made a hole. And this hole indicates a symbol. It says, today a hole has been made. Futihat, the passive tense. Meaning by Allah. A hole has been made in the wall. And so the wall is now disintegrating and Gog and Magog are now being raised in the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Next week we're going to take up another hadith which attempts to give a different picture. That the release did not take place at this time, but we leave that until next week. And so we have the evidence. How many times is this hadith in Sahih Bukhari? 8 times. From how many different companions? 4. If a hadith comes from more than one source, it is called, anybody? Mutawatir. If it comes from one source, it is called ahad. This is mutawatir. Good. Now then, in the last class, we went on beyond the Surah Al-Kahf to Gog and Magog located elsewhere in the Quran. And we found that Gog and Magog were located in the Quran in only one other reference. In the whole Quran there are only 2. One is in Surah Al-Kahf, the other is in Surah Al-Anbiya, the prophets of 21. There are 2 ayat, and here they are in Surah Al-Anbiya. And this was the bulk of our class last week. Haram means prohibited. Prohibited. So haram here is a ban on. Qarya means a town. Ahlaknaha, we, this na here means we destroyed it, meaning we, Allah. Annahum, that they la yarji'un, cannot return, hatta, until, idha futihat, when released, Gog and Magog, wa, and whom they, min kulli hadab, from every direction or in every direction, yansilun, spread out. As though you are procreating. You have a child here, you have a child there, you have a child there, you have a child there, you have plenty children, you spread out. وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ, there is a ban on a town. أَهْلَكْنَاهَا, which we destroyed. أَنَّهُمْ, that they, the people of the town, لَا يَرْجِعُونَ, cannot return. There is a ban on them that they cannot return to this town. Allah is saying. Hatta, until, you will see, thousands of years will pass, but they cannot return until, meaning return to reclaim the town as their own. They could come out as tourists, that's alright. But they cannot return to reclaim the town as their own. Hatta, until, إِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجُ وَمَأْجُوجُ, until Gog and Magog are released, number one. And having been released, secondly, وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ, they spread out in all directions. Meaning, they take control of the whole world. When they do that, it will now be the world order of Gog and Magog. No one can destroy it. No possible combination of rivals can destroy their power. No. But the power which they hold over the world, which is literally indestructible, is a power which is used to oppress, Fasad, is a power which is used to corrupt. And the world becomes progressively more corrupted. And oppression increases. As oppression increases, as the world grows more corrupted, as globalization marches forward, as they take control of the world in the world order of Gog and Magog, then you will see, Allah is saying, then you will see that these people who were expelled from this town and who were banned from returning to the town to reclaim it as their own, you will see them returning to reclaim the town as their own. Which town is it? To this class it is crystal clear. Alhamdulillah, to everyone in this class it is crystal clear. Praises you to Allah. But then why is it that outside of this class hardly anyone will agree with us? Just go outside and ask my brothers, the learned and the distinguished scholars of Islam, who are more learned than I am. And I honor them and I respect them for their learning. And I do not in any way seek to belittle them. But it is an amazing thing for which I don't have an answer, that outside of this class, you'll hardly find anyone in this country who will agree with the translation that I just gave of the ayah. Translation, we've not yet interpreted. Translation. Okay, which town is it? We said, let us use the Prophet ﷺ to answer that question. Remember? We said, let us go to all the ahadith on Gog and Magog and see whether there is any town which is mentioned, which is linked to Gog and Magog, which fits the description. When we went to all the ahadith on Gog and Magog, we found to our surprise that there is only one town. In all the ahadith, only one town mentioned, which is linked to Gog and Magog. And that town is Jerusalem, Baitul Maqdis. And so we came to the conclusion, and we insist that this is the correct conclusion. That what Allah is saying in the Quran is that He destroyed the state of Israel and He expelled the Jews from the Holy Land. And having expelled them from the Holy Land, He put a ban on them that they could never return to reclaim it as their own for 2,000 years. But that when Gog and Magog were released in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, and then eventually over a period of time they took control of the world with their indestructible power, and the world order of Gog and Magog was established, then mankind saw the fulfillment of this prophecy in the Quran. Then mankind saw the Jews being brought back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own, indicating that Gog and Magog are the ones who are now in control of the world. They are the ones who have made the return of the Jews to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own possible. Last week we also made mention of the fact, and I said, if you differ with me, you can throw me out of the window, you remember? That I was not the first to come to the conclusion that this town was Jerusalem. I said that somewhere in the late 50s, maybe in 58 or so, a Pakistani whose name was Mr. Bawani, Ibrahim Ahmad Bawani, rahimahullah, I knew him, wrote a little booklet, a pamphlet really, on Gog and Magog and the state of Israel. I have that booklet with me, that pamphlet. And in that pamphlet, the only thing that is really striking in its importance is his translation of this verse and his identification of the town as Jerusalem. The rest of the pamphlet is mediocre. But this is there, that the town is Jerusalem. And in the preface of this pamphlet, Mr. Bawani records his appreciation to Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari rahimahullah, who he said explained the subject to him. And so I came to the conclusion that if Maulana Ansari explained the subject to Mr. Bawani, and if by far the most important point made in the pamphlet is the identification of the town as Jerusalem, I came to the conclusion that my teacher, Maulana Ansari, also held the view that the town was Jerusalem. I read the pamphlet only after I had myself come to the conclusion that the town was Jerusalem. This was about 10 years ago. And when I read the pamphlet, my heart was fluttering with joy that my teacher also came to the same conclusion. And I said to you, if you feel that this was an improper interpretation I made out of that pamphlet, you can throw me out of the window. Now then, what remains is for us to now identify Gog and Magog. It will not suffice for us to say that Gog and Magog is modern Western civilization. We want something more precise than that. From this passage of the Quran in Surah Al-Anbiya, we know that Gog and Magog, when they are released, now listen carefully, Gog and Magog, when they are released, have a specific mission in addition to their general mission. Their specific mission is to liberate the Holy Land and bring the Jews back to the Holy Land. That's their specific mission. In other words, we are looking for a people with a trademark. Their trademark is an obsession with the Holy Land. To liberate it and to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land. Can we identify these people? Okay. I want you to look at Europe, the white world. Prior to the time of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And then look at Europe, the white world, after the time of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. In reference to Europe's relationship with the Holy Land and with the return of the Jews to the Holy Land. Did Europe ever control the Holy Land prior to the time of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? The answer is yes, at least on 2 occasions. Number one, Alexander, who is known as Alexander the Greek emperor, conquered Jerusalem and held discussions with the rabbis. But Alexander and his Greek empire never considered Jerusalem and the Holy Land to be anything more than just another occupied territory. They never considered the Holy Land to have any special status. Good. Who else from Europe? The Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, when Rome was pagan, and then the Roman Empire, when Rome became Christian, Constantine. And on both occasions, the Roman Empire never considered the Holy Land to have any special status. You can go and see the movie Passion of Christ, and you see the Roman government in the Holy Land. They never considered this to be other than just a backward province of the Roman Empire. Now look at Europe after Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Europe rapidly becomes Christian after Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Christianity spreads quickly. And then suddenly the Pope, a white man, is obsessed with liberating the Holy Land. And he initiates what is called a holy war, jihad, to liberate the Holy Land. They call it the Crusades. It's a holy war. Karen Armstrong has written a book with a gold mine of information on the Crusades. Very difficult to get it outside. And I bought that book in London while I was there last summer. And I've read the book. The Crusades are now initiated, one after the other. A number of Crusades. What is the purpose of the Crusades? To liberate the Holy Land in the name of Christianity. But is the white man the only Christian? Christianity was in the world long before the white man became a Christian. Christianity is an Oriental religion. It's a Semitic religion. Started in the Holy Land. The Byzantine Empire had already emerged as a Christian empire before Europe became Christian. And now Europeans, marched to the Holy Land to liberate the Holy Land in the name of Christianity. But guess what? Has it ever occurred to you that no other Christians participated in the Crusades? Only the white? Nobody else? Isn't that strange? And secondly, that when the white crusaders passed through the Byzantine Empire to get to the Holy Land, they fought their own Christian brothers. How come? Only the white Christian wants to liberate the Holy Land. No other Christian participates in the Holy Land, in these holy wars, these crusades. I want to suggest to you a new way of looking at history. That the crusades were not Christian wars. That the crusades were the white man's war. The crusades were European wars masquerading as Christian wars. A PhD in deception, masquerading as Christian. But they were essentially the white man's war, European war. And when Europe decided to cast off the clothes of Christianity, as unceremoniously as Europe had adopted itself to be Christian, one Sunday morning Europe decided we don't want to be Christian anymore. And now Europe is essentially godless. Secularism is a euphemism for godlessness. Europe is now secular. Church and state are separate from each other. Why don't you Muslims understand as Europeans? We are the leaders of the world in thought. We have separated church and state. Well, then if you separated church and state, could you kindly explain to me how come a secular Europe persists in the Crusades, which were holy wars launched by a pope? Can you explain to me that Britain continues the Crusades and brings the Crusades to its conclusion? Where's the evidence? In 1917, December 1917, when the British Army defeated the Ottoman Islamic Army and entered into Jerusalem, what did General Allenby say? The British general. He said, today the Crusades are now over. And so we have a picture of Europe now, in which prior to Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, there is no recognition of the Holy Land of having any special status. But after Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, there is an obsession, which is the name of the perfume as well. There is an obsession with the Holy Land. Good. Another Sunday morning, part of Europe decided to become Jewish. So now you have a white man who's a Jew. But this white man who becomes a Jew, he wants to liberate the Holy Land. And he wants to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. But he is a Johnny-come-lately Jew. The real Jews are the cousins of the Arabs. And they're living in Yemen, and in Iraq, and in Morocco, and in Egypt. These we may call the Israelite Jews. And those we may call the white Jews. So the white Jews create the Zionist movement in 1897. And the white Jews succeed in getting the British government to make a deal with them in 1917 for the Balfour Declaration. that it is the intention of the British government to work for the establishment of a Jewish national home in the Holy Land, Balfour Declaration, 1917, October. The Zionist movement persists in that struggle until eventually they are able to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land between 1917 and 1948. In 1948, the Zionist movement succeeds in establishing the State of Israel. It's a European state. European people control the state. The Oriental Jews are called the Sephardic Jews, and they have second-class citizenship. The white man who is a Jew is called the Ashkenazi, and he controls Israel. But the strange thing is that the Oriental Jews or the Israelite Jews never participated in the struggle to liberate the Holy Land. The only Jews who had that mission were the white men who were Jews. And so I want to suggest to you a reinterpretation of history today. And that is that the Zionist movement is not an essentially Jewish movement. No. It's a European movement. A European movement to liberate the Holy Land, but camouflaged as a Jewish movement. It is Europe, whether Europe put on the clothes of Christianity. It is Europe, whether Europe put on the clothes of Judaism. It is Europe, whether Europe put on the clothes of secularism. All along the road, it is Europe. And so very clearly, using these two verses of the Quran, we are able to see that Gog and Magog must be located in European civilization, the white world. Now we want something better than that. We want to refine our position. It is too broad, too broad, that Gog and Magog are located in Europe. Where in Europe? Is it the British people? Or the French, or the German, or the Spanish, or the Portuguese? Or the Russians? Who are they, Gog and Magog? You go to the Bible, you can't answer this question. The Christian scholarship cannot answer this question. Now then, we have to look in Europe for a people who, after Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, are displaying a power which cannot be matched by any other power in the world. Today, of course, the whole of Europe, the Western world, possess that power. But we want to go back in history to locate where it came from. Now, a very interesting part of the subject now. At the time of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, there were two superpowers in the world. Which were they? It was called Rome, but it was the Byzantine Empire, with its headquarters in Constantinople. And the second one was the Persian Empire, Kesra. These were the two superpowers in the world at the time of the rise of Islam. Good. You know the history, that the Muslim army, after the death of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, the Muslim army challenged both the superpowers simultaneously and defeated them both. You know that? Simultaneously. And when both the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire were defeated, then Islam emerged as the superpower in the world without anything in the landscape to match it, to challenge it. Okay? We are the most powerful military force in the world. Okay. Within 100 years of the death of the Prophet ﷺ, we began our attempt to take over Europe. Whether you want to describe this as Islamic imperialism or not, is a different subject which we are not going to enter into. The attack on Europe was launched from two directions. One was the minor attack, and the other was the major attack. The minor attack was led by a man named Tariq, and he took the ships through Gibraltar, and so Gibraltar became known as Jabal al-Tariq. Jabal, mountain, Tariq, Jabal al-Tariq, and the corruption of that term, Jabal al-Tariq, is now Gibraltar. Like the name of the town is Beit Laham. Beit Laham, meat market. What is it called today? Bethlehem. Bethlehem. Beit Laham. So Gibraltar. When he got over to the mainland, he burnt his boats. You remember? We had only 12,000 men with him. And then he fought, and eventually they were able to establish a Muslim stronghold in southern Spain, which became known as Andalusia. And they remained there for, I think, about 500 years or so, until in 1492, the same year that Columbus landed in Trinidad, that same year the Muslims were expelled from Spain. But the advance beyond southern Spain into southern France was halted by a man named Charles Martel or Charlemagne. And the Muslim army could not penetrate the north. It's a small force, not a big army. But when they were able to hold on to southern Spain for something like 500 years or more. 850 years, mashallah, we got some historians in this class. Now then, the major military thrust into Europe by the new Islamic power in the world was not from the west, but was from the east. The army passed through the Caucasus Mountains to take on Europe. And guess what happened? As soon as that army passed the Caucasus Mountains, it met a power, a force. It could not budge. It could not budge. In Spain, they were able with a smaller force to defeat and take over southern Spain with a smaller force. But this, the main army of the most powerful military force in the world, grinds to a halt because a tribe called, where are they? Does anyone know the name of the tribe? Huh? Come on. That's right. That's right. Khazar. Khaza. The Khaza tribes of Central Europe, where the Caucasus Mountains are. The Khaza tribes, or Kheza tribes, blocked the advance of the Muslim army, and we could not move forward. And so this is a force more powerful than the most powerful military force in the world. It is these people, Khaza, who shortly after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, probably within 100 years, decided to convert and become Jews one Sunday morning. Yeah? This is a historically documented fact. This is the phenomenon of the European Jew. The Khaza tribes, which displayed a military power, which made them more powerful than the most powerful military force in the world. The Khaza tribes decided to convert and become Jewish. But when they converted to become Jewish, they had no special relationship with the Torah. They were not religious people. They became Jews for essentially political purposes. And they never had any attachment with the Jewish religious law and the life that is sacred. These European Jews now spread out from Central Europe, and they go and they take over, for example, Poland. And Poland becomes almost totally controlled by the European Jew. Many Israeli rulers have come from Poland. And then they leave Poland and they move out into Western Europe. And as they move out into Western Europe, they become the driving forces behind the French Revolution. And they become the driving forces behind the Bolshevik Revolution, which overturns Russia. And having overturned Western Europe, they then cross the Atlantic. And over a period of maybe 50 years or less, they're able to take control of the United States. To such an extent that in 1916, the showdown took place. Henry Ford is the most popular American alive. He's an icon of America. He's the man who took the automobile, which was the exclusive privilege of the wealthy. Only the rich could afford a motor car. And Henry Ford, through his introduction of the production lines in Detroit, is able to bring down the cost of a motor car to about $700 or $750. And so millions of Americans can now afford to buy a motor car thanks to Henry Ford. Henry Ford also doesn't bother about market wage and minimum wage. Henry Ford decides, I want to pay my labor force a wage which is a just wage. And me care what the others pay. And so he pays a just wage. And in paying a just wage, and in showing his genius in establishing the production line, and bringing the motor car and making it available to the average American, Henry Ford became the most popular American, more popular than the president. In 1916, Henry Ford used all the power that he had, used all the wealth that he had, to try to prevent the United States from entering the war. But the Jews had made a deal with Britain. What was the deal? If you will promise to give us the Holy Land, we'll bring the United States in the war. Public opinion in the United States from 1914 to 1916 was against entering into the war. You can check all of this out, yourself. Do the research. And yet, the European Jew, who is now an American Jew, through his skillful control of the media, through his skillful manipulation of public opinion, through the skillful influence he exerts upon the White House, the European Jew succeeds in 1916 in bringing the United States into the war. And so we now have identified something more than simple Western civilization, something more than simply the white world order. We are now capable of refining our definition and locating Gog and Magog in a special part of Europe from where they spread out. They are the Cheza tribes who eventually converted and became Jews. Now, let me recommend to you a book. There's only one real book to read on this subject. PHIR 13th Tribe by, anybody remembers the name of the author? No? It's a Hungarian historian, Koestler, Koersler, something like that is the name. But the book is on the internet, you can download it. Just fiddle around with something like 13 Tribe on the internet and see. Spell it? 13. The 13th tribe. Koestler, or whatever is his name, in describing the European Jew who has come from the Cheza tribe, calls it the 13th tribe. Now then, before we end our subject of identifying Gog and Magog, when Gog and Magog are released, the first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee. If you pass by the Sea of Galilee, you're heading for Jerusalem. And by the time the last of them pass, they'll say there used to be water here. So we're looking for a European people with that power who will be moving from Europe to the Holy Land. This is the European Jew. That's where he is now. And so we have come to the conclusion that we can now identify the origin of Gog and Magog in the Cheza tribes. But remember, when they are released, they make carbon copies of themselves. They take over different people, and as they take over a people, those people now begin to imitate the way of life of Gog and Magog. Like, did I tell you? But when I was a 14-year-old boy, I used to be 14 once upon a time. Yeah. SHA and I know that when we were boys, we never saw blue jeans. And then one Sunday morning as a teenager, we saw blue jeans for the first time. Everybody want to wear blue jeans now. But one horrible Sunday morning, we saw our sisters in blue jeans. What? We never saw a girl in blue jeans in all our lives. You all don't know this experience, but we had. And then, worse than that came. The day when we saw our fathers wearing blue jeans. And then even worse than that, the day when mothers started wearing blue jeans. And then worse than that, when grandpa started wearing blue jeans. And then we see grandma in blue jeans. Huh? And then one day you see the priest in blue jeans. You see the rabbi in blue jeans. And if you wait long enough, you might even see blue jeans on the mimbar giving the khutbah one day. And we saw the Chinese in blue jeans. And the Japanese in blue jeans. And holy of all holies, one day we saw the black African in the blue jeans. And then we saw the Arab in blue jeans. And the Persians in blue jeans. And even the Pakistanis in blue jeans. What's going on? What's going on? Is this by accident, I ask you? Put on your thinking cap. And so while Gog and Magog emerged from the Khaybar tribes, that's only the origin. As they embrace other people, they expand, they multiply, and they create carbon copies of themselves. Until eventually 999 out of every 1,000 becomes a carbon copy of Gog and Magog. When that happens, then the Muslim who follows Nabi Muhammad ﷺ is a very lonely creature. Because he's out of step with the rest of the world. He's different. And they now grinding their teeth with anger. Why can't these Muslims dress the way we dress? Live the way we live? Why they always have to talk about this Insha'Allah and Subhanallah and Alhamdulillah and MashaAllah? But we give up that kind of language long time ago. We don't use these expressions anymore. But look at them Muslims. And so life becomes difficult for a Muslim. How difficult? What did the Prophet say about hot coals? He said the time will come when in order to live the life of Islam it will be equivalent to holding hot coals. You know what's the implication of that? If you have an Islam and you are moving serenely and quietly and peacefully and you have the experience of hot coals, brother, you ain't have Islam. That's the implication. Alright?